then obviously like there's a whole lot of like the back end work that I do on the end, like back editing and stuff.
For sure.
But other than that, welcome to the show, my guy.
Hey, thanks for having me, dog.
Like going into this, I was like, okay, Max isn't like a current athlete, but I always remember, like, especially like you messaging me being like, yo, I'd love to hop on the podcast. Like I treat these more, not even like an interview. I treat these more of just like a conversation. And I already know we're going to be able to like work sports into this somehow, but babe, just like what's going on? Like how have you been? What's new?
Nothing much, man. Just trying to figure out my whole life, man. Just trying to, like get it all together, see where I'm living next year, just all that stuff, man.
You and I we met through Alfred, no?
Yeah, we met through Alfred like 2 years ago, I want to say.
Probably 2 summers ago, maybe even 3, because Alfred and I, there was one summer where Alfred and I were like hanging out almost we were working out. That's back when he was like playing ball. So
yeah.
I would have been over at his place on where was he living? Tower Terrace or something?
Was that the side street? Like the
the side street with the apartment.
I remember that.
He was living with it wasn't Will.
It was.
Who was he living with?
It was
it's
Nick.
The cousin of one.
Nick. He was living with Nick.
Yes, Nick and is it Stuart? Not Stuart, but anyway, he's a cousin of one of my friends from Churro. Anyway, that was like the crib. That was the crib that we met together. And back then, because how did you know Alfred? Is it through?
I know
through grammar?
From grammar, and just kind of like generally, like we kind of ran in the same general circle back then.
That's
you know what I mean? So like all our friends knew each other, so it was bound to happen. Like, you know what I mean?
Of course.
So, like,
and I ain't trying to make this interview about Alfred, because Alfred's name is he's doing too many big things already. Like on a serious note, he just came out with that CBC opinion piece. I don't know if you had a chance to read, but just
unbelievable, man. What he's doing right now is unbelievable, bro. And especially like in Canada, man. Like honestly, it's not talked about as much, racism and all of that going on in Canada. No. It's really not talked about at all. So now it's getting a big light. Is insane. It's good.
Well,
it's like amazing.
It's true. Like you're right. People don't talk about it, or I wouldn't even say like not even think that it's a real thing here. But you think of Canada and you just think of like, oh, it's a night. I always refer, because I lived in both. I went to high school in Vermont, so I played basketball there, and so I always thought of like Canada as everything good about the United States in terms of like culture and lifestyle, but without all the negative BS that you see on the news and all that kind of stuff. But with that being said, clearly it's still, we still do share some of those similarities in terms of problems or whatever. But that, I guess that would be an interesting question for me just right off the bat before we even dive into like who you are or like what you're up to nowadays. But like, have you ran into like, especially because obviously, okay, you're the guy on TikTok right now, like you're the guy, baby, and so with all that, like I'm sure you've had like a lot of interactions with people mainly from the US. Like, is it weird when you tell people like you're from Canada? Like what's the first thing
it's
that
weird.
comes out
I
of
feel like
someone's mouth?
before, like earlier on, like during the beginning of quarantine sort of thing like that, when I was in all these groups of random people on TikTok, right? Like it was all very friendly, very casual, and trying to help each other out. But then when stuff started to go crazy in the US, now there's like a certain sense of animosity. It's like, okay, you don't live here, so you're not like in this together with us. So it's a weird thing. But there's definitely in these groups, oh man, absolutely. Like it's definitely like a thing. Like now it used to be everyone's having a big conversation. Now if I message something, only like the Canadian guys reply. Even though there's only 15 people in this random group, and like
sure.
We all make completely different content. It's like now it's weird. Like I don't know if it's in the back of their head they're thinking about it, or if it's just random that it's happening. But it feels like,
I even think back to when Trump first got elected, and everyone was like, "Man, I'm going to Canada." Like even before he got in office, people were like, "Yo, Canada, if he gets elected, whatever." So like, I can see that. I guess I can see that little in the back of their mind or whatever. But For just, I guess, okay, let me give a little intro for like people who are watching. Um, you grew up here in Halifax. We already touched on that. I met you through Alfred and whatever, and I do want to get into like how sports has kind of affected, like just to stay on a little bit of theme
Yeah.
here
No,
with
it
my whole
absolutely has
brand and
too. Like
stuff.
there's a ton of sports stuff that has to do with this.
Right,
Like I
and
got a big update on that too that you're gonna like in a second.
good man, good, because
Yeah.
I want to dive into that, but I
Yeah.
guess just kind of give a little like who you are, where you grew up, like just kind of say hi. I'm like, my name's Max Taylor. Like, nice to meet you guys. Like a little intro. I
For
don't
sure.
know.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Max Emerson Taylor. I born in Toronto, raised in Halifax. Got to know a little bit of the internet scene recently, and here we are, man. You know, now I'm
Exactly.
starting to come up a little bit, so trying to make
So
moves.
it's funny. I just got back from a walk, and I was like, damn, I got to do a little bit of research on my guy. So that podcast you did with Underage Thinking, I listened
Yeah,
to that. Hilarious. Like you and I commented on it, and you were like, yeah, great guys and everything. And I can see they're your typical like pop culture podcast, young guys. Let's just
yeah,
talk to these creators and everything.
yeah.
Hilarious. Like you caught me off guard talking about the penis pump. I was like, man, I was
Well,
just like,
it's just like these two high school kids. They messaged me
yeah,
on Instagram, and I
yeah,
hadn't replied like because I just didn't notice they messaged me after like a week. So then
right.
when the week was done, I noticed that they messaged me a week ago. I was like, okay, you know what, boys, let's jump on the podcast tonight. So I jumped
That's right.
on. We were shooting the shit, and I gotta be honest, like they did a ton of research that I didn't even know existed.
Right.
So I gotta hand it to those guys, man. Both of them are like 16, 15, but wow,
Well,
you
that's
know?
where, and I'm glad I listened to it because I had no idea that you were, let alone studying business, but let alone sports marketing. And that's
Yeah.
something that you're interested in or curious
Oh,
about
absolutely. What I
because
wanted to do at first, because I used to write this thing called like just write sports blogs, right? And that was to
sure.
build up a resume to because I wanted to be like a sports broadcaster. That was my main thing that I wanted to do for so long, right? And then when you get in that world and you start to meet other people who want to do it, like for me, I started to realize like, wow, these guys have so much in-depth knowledge about like hockey, football, even like lacrosse they know about. And I really only know in depth basketball. Like to my core, that's the one thing I knew. So there's too much catching up, man.
And I'm gonna give you a little secret that not a lot of people know. I grew up playing basketball, but when it comes to sports, I'm probably like the fakest sports fan you would ever meet. Because outside of Instagram, just scrolling Bleacher Report and like seeing headlines, I don't
Yeah,
follow the sport like that. I
yeah,
don't. And for me to have like started up this brand which focuses on sport, I guess that's the big secret. If someone were to think like, okay, Tristan's running a sports media page, the first thing that may come to their head would be like highlights and up to date information on athletes and this
mm,
kind of stuff. But it's the completely opposite. The fact that you and I are even just having a conversation, knowing that you're not currently an athlete, just shows what I try to get from athletes of like the broader story and what they're interested in and what they like to
yeah.
do and what they're doing outside of sport. Like
Well, let me ask you this too,
it's
man.
just yeah.
Do you find because you played basketball growing up and like you were like intensely into it, most of the people you have on is basketball oriented, or is
Well,
it like everybody?
for sure. And when first starting out with anything, if you're trying to like do interviews or collabs, obviously you're going to reach out to the people you know closest to
Yeah.
you. So for me, it was my teammates. For me, it was someone like Will Finder or
Oh
someone
yeah,
that
yeah,
wasn't a teammate with me, but that I knew from the sport. And then just because you need someone to like my first couple of
yeah,
stories on this page were just Saint FX athletes. Because for me, one, I was terrified shitless just to like randomly DM someone from SMU or
yeah.
U of T, and they'd be like, "Who is this guy?" So I yes, I did definitely start with people I knew, but now that I'm getting a little more comfortable and like not really giving a shit about what people think, whether or not they
Mm,
say yes or no, that's where it's getting to. But again, it's not even. That's why I like to hear that you're interested in sports blogging because that covers more. What would you have covered in a blog like LeBron James change like getting traded to this team or being
It,
free
it was
agent?
it was more like it was like in-depth stuff because like at the time when I was sports blogging, you know Malcolm Gladwell is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my guy. So like during that time, I first discovered Malcolm Gladwell, right? So like he goes
Mm,
deep dives into people, right? So like all my articles were like intense research about like ranch like esports and like why they're big, or even like basketball, like the Ball brothers and like why they're the
sure.
way they are. You know what I mean? So it's just like the
Right.
underlying things that go behind sports, right? And that's what I found interesting too, man. Like if I hadn't done that, even though I'm not doing it anymore, I wouldn't have learned that like esports. As someone watched a League of Legends practice, 100 million people watched it, more than watched the Super Bowl in 2016.
Stop.
A practice. That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
I didn't
You
even know they
know,
had practices. What does a practice look like?
who's watching? What is that? Isn't it just the same? Isn't it just the same?
That's what,
Like I was,
that's what
how
comes
do
to
you
my mind.
practice, man?
I
You
agree.
know. And this guy, he's like this. The guy they watched the practice of, his name's Faker, and he doesn't really speak. Like he never speaks, so it's not like you're watching for the commentary. You're just watching him. And don't get me wrong, like it was entertaining because I watched a clip of it. But that being said, it's like, okay, 100 million people watch this. That's insane, man. Like the esports thing is
Yeah,
massive now.
it's blown up.
Massive.
So I had a friend growing up in Churro. We went to junior high together. His name's Patrick Smith, but he
Yeah.
was always that kid in the hallways at the lunch or on break who had his kind of camera with him. And this was back in 2008, 2009. And the big talk was Patrick runs this YouTube channel, yeah, and he records himself while he sleeps. And we're like, what are you talking about? He records himself while he sleeps. Anyway, so you watch one of the videos, and it's him like just sped throughout the night of him waking up during the night and just talking crazy stuff or like sleepwalking. And so like he was just on that YouTube scene. Fast forward,
Yeah.
he's approaching like 2 million subscribers. He's a
No way.
Call of Duty zombies. Like he's a gamer, right? And
Yeah.
so for you to hear that 100 million people watch League of Legends, that's not surprising to me because I kind of have this direct, not like we're not best friends, but like I could message him and we've been chatting a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's just it's amazing to see that now esports especially is kind of on the rise, and
Yeah.
there's almost like a new debate of whether or not you consider a video gamer an athlete. So that's my question. Like, would I hop on an interview or do an interview with a video game guy?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
why not? Right?
It's a weird thing too, man. Like, 'cause I was thinking about it too. Like, when I was doing one of the articles about esports, I wrote one about poker too, right? Because there was a big debate. It's like, is poker a
Ah,
sport?
I
And I'm
never
like,
thought
okay,
about that.
there's a lot of chance involved, and like, if you look at the definition of what an athlete is, it's like a lot to do with like the body, like
That's right.
you know what I mean? That's the body. But all these new things that are coming out, like now people are considering poker a sport and the esports a sport. It's more to do with like the mind, like strategy and everything, right? Like a buddy of mine in university, his name's Nick Greenlaw because like he handles like Sexy Rexy or something.
Okay.
He is blowing up on YouTube and Twitch right now to a point where he's not even doing school anymore. He's just living in
Hmm.
the campus and he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
a year
Yeah.
just streaming. And it's crazy, man.
It's nuts, and
Crazy.
that's what Patrick Smith does. Like I remember going to the movie theater one time, and like the previews before the movie, there was like an ad, there was an I don't know, a trailer for whether it was based on a video. It had to be based on a video game or something. Anyway, you know how like Rolling Stones will put like a review, and then it'll say, "Boom, amazing" or "thrilling." Rolling Stones. There was one
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
said, "The Smith Plays." I was like, "Holy shit, Patrick Smith is here in the movie theater!" Like it just kind of shows you, and especially that I'm talking to you here. I've been fascinated and obviously crowded with the fact that the internet is just incredible. Like I think of someone like you who is from Halifax, Nova Scotia, small
Yeah.
town, and now you're in conversations with some of the biggest content creators in the
Which is
world.
so weird to me, man. Like
You-
it all happened this week specifically with that stuff, and it's just so bizarre, man.
but
Right?
but it's got
Like,
to be because like even for me, I watch these creators every single day on YouTube and Instagram, and I see the influence that they have. And then all of a
yeah,
sudden, Max Taylor's like in that conversation. It just shows you the ability that the internet has to it like I posted something this morning actually on UndressTheJersey of some girl was talking about her story coming from a no-name town in New Brunswick,
Mm,
who she was like, "Oh, I play soccer, but like I would never be good enough to go to the university level. There's 150 kids in my school." And I said, nowadays it really doesn't matter where you are in the world, because if you
mm.
have a phone and an internet connection, you can post, you can
Bang.
talk to, you can like like speak on that for with your personal experience on and
Well,
how that's kind of changed your life.
yeah, I think it definitely changed my life, man. Like, but at the same time, I was thinking a lot about it the other day, right? Like, let's say your odds of making it to the NBA if you're a basketball player are what,
It's a
0.021%,
ridiculous number.
right? It's a ridiculous number. The same odds is making it as like a social media sensation or whatever. Same thing, right?
Yes.
Except the only difference is if you're constantly trying to make it as a social media person and you don't really, and nothing happens, I wouldn't say you wasted your time the whole way, but if you're
No,
doing the
no.
same thing in basketball or like in soccer or football, the whole
Mm,
time you're building team skills, right? So even if you don't make it anywhere, you're building a relationship with people, you're learning how to talk to people, you're building like how to work together, which applies to everything else. Whereas if you're just esports gaming or if you're doing all this other stuff, you only really hone one skill, and that's it's
sure.
riskier. It's definitely riskier, man. You know?
And especially if you're not trying to reach out and collab, and
Yeah.
which is huge on the internet, because that's something that I not pride myself in, but one of my strategies is that whenever I post a story of someone, I hope that they will repost it even just on their Instagram story or whatever,
Yeah.
because that just gets access into their audience.
Mm.
And clearly that's what kind of happened to you. Like David Dobrik just comes up and
Well,
says,
man,
"Yo, like,
it's a bunch of luck too, man. Like a ton of luck.
oh,
Like
of
because like
course,
I'd say 4 months ago, I had on TikTok like I was just making terrible videos with my buddies to make them laugh.
okay,
Right, like I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
They're all deleted now, but they were brutal, man.
Okay,
And I had like 92 followers. 10 of them were real people. The other 80
right,
were like
right,
bot accounts, like
yeah,
advertising accounts. And then I posted this milk challenge, and David Dobrik duets it. And then all of a sudden things start going crazy. And I'm like, what the hell's going on?
that's
And
right.
then someone else, like a big name like Addison Rae, does a bunch of stuff with me, like out of nowhere. So like the first month I was on it, out of nowhere, just like multiple angles of luck were coming my way, like for no
Hmm.
reason at all.
Hmm.
And then when
Hmm.
things started to slow down, David Dobrik followed me, which he didn't follow me before. And then that gave me a huge boost again. So it's like every time something's about to slow down, I get a huge boost, which is
That's
just
right.
doesn't make any sense, man. You know?
Well,
And
I
with
kind
him,
of
like I have to thank this guy, man. Like honestly, like he just for some random reasons give me these handouts, which are so crazy, man.
hey, but
You
you
know?
deserve, like, man, like I'm not even kidding when I say like your stuff is literally funny. Like listen to that podcast with Underage Thinking. I,
Yeah,
they kept playing like little some of your TikTok voices and shit.
yeah, yeah.
And then there was one that I hadn't heard before. And it was just like, man, this is
Which
funny.
one?
I forget
Which
which
was
one it
this?
was. Whether I think it was the one with the bear. And you're like, man,
Oh,
you never go hunting without raw meat. I was like, man, shut up.
yeah,
What are you talking about? So
yeah,
it's just like that kind of stuff. But I don't want to lose what you just said about like in esports or online social media presence, that if you don't, like, at least with sports in the NBA, you learn all these team, intangible
mm,
skills, that which I talk about all the time. But what what have you learned thus far, now that you've kind of amassed such an audience, in terms of, I guess, specifically, if someone like my dad, I was like, yeah, hey dad, like, one of my buddies is like a huge social media persona now, and this and that, and I just feel like he would blow it off as like, oh, that's cool,
yeah.
but like, does he have a degree? But so he doesn't understand that, and maybe some other people listening wouldn't as well. But like, what are some of those intangibles, especially with like the work that goes behind your videos, and like brainstorming and development of all this kind of stuff?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Like honestly, with the biggest thing I can say to anybody right now is like, even at the beginning when I was a slow rise up a little bit, like even when I only had like 100,000 or whatever, I was still like, I'm still doing it now a tiny bit, but like working on like an advertising portfolio, right? Because like that's like the career I wanted to do, advertising. So you can't go full force with this until you know it's going to work out, which is hard to say, man. Like, you know, because like a lot of stuff with like basketball or like if we're talking like hockey, if you have a little bit of a glimpse, bam, all the way, it improves your chances. But with this,
Right.
you can't, man, because then you're spending all your time on Instagram, wasting time. So you have to have with this one. I think it's hard to say it out loud, but you need a backup plan until you know, and that's like the most important thing with this. Because I've seen guys who are working 4 times as hard as me, and they have like 2,000 followers. They're posting every single day,
Right.
and it's also not about working hard. It's about working smart, man. You know, like I'll sit in the car and I'll write for like 2 hours a day with a buddy of mine. We just write ideas out. And some people will sit there and they'll film 42 ideas back to back, no writing involved, but they've spent 5 hours making them. It's like, well,
Hmm.
you got to plan, man. You know what I mean? Like you have to plan.
Right. Because when I'm watching, like I'm using David Dobrik as an example, like if you were to watch any of his vlogs, you would just think that it's spontaneous and on the spot. He
Mm.
doesn't plan a lot of stuff. But I think if you really dive into it and you realize that he has a team around him, there's got to
Oh,
be
yeah.
some sort of like strategy that goes within it. And that's what you just touched on too, right? Like,
Yeah.
sure, I could wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm going to make this TikTok and film it. But until you kind of have a strategy, like, have you used anything that you've learned, say, at your ad school in Toronto or, business wise, or like, I guess I'm just trying to pull like this other side that people don't realize goes into
Yeah.
doing what you do.
Well, a ton of stuff, man. Like when it comes to advertising, like pretty much everything I've learned at that school applies to this. Like just it because it's all about presenting your ideas right away. It's about making your ideas sticky so people remember them. So that's the whole thing. If I
Hmm.
write something down, I'm like, okay. That's why like sometimes my videos are hit or miss because I'm thinking, okay, this one I didn't put that much time into. You have to have an idea that's easy to grasp, it makes sense, they can relate it back to something. So
Hmm.
that's what helps the ad school. And when it came to the like business and sports marketing, like what was it? The most important thing I remembered is one day in class they showed this Arnold Schwarzenegger clip, right? Who's bro, my hero, man.
Yeah.
After this day,
Hey, let's
unbelievable.
go.
And he was talking about like saying, you know, you can't do it alone. And if anybody ever says I did it all by myself, they're lying. You need a team around you. At least people who like you can send a video to and say, hey, what do you think about this? At least that, right? Like right now, I got Emma Edmonds, and she's just this past week is like organizing like a schedule for me to help me out.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, this is amazing, man. You know, it's just little tiny people are helping, and it just you need help. You need help to do whatever.
And to hear that you have that kind of support, like even just something as simple as someone planning a schedule for you, that kind of be
Yeah,
like, okay, like this is kind of getting serious, or like this is a real thing and I can take it
yeah,
somewhere. Like I just pulled this desk. There was the apartment building I'm living in, by the garbage, there was this white desk that someone threw out. I was like, man, I'm gonna take that, put it
hell yeah,
upstairs, and pretend like I have my little office. Like it, it's just those little things that you find that keep you motivated. And as a basketball player, to like keep this within the theme of sports, all the stuff that you're talking about relates directly to to a life as an athlete, like
yeah.
structure, discipline, sacrifice, you know, continually doing reps. Like I can't help to think, but if you go a couple of days without doing those 2 hour sessions in your car writing stuff, you're going to
It's
feel
not
out
the
of
same.
funk.
No,
It's not
no,
the
bro.
same.
If I don't do that, then the entire day, next 2 days,
Sure.
wasted. Just wait,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely. And that's how I felt as a basketball player. If I didn't get in the gym just to do rhythm shooting and get reps up, you feel out
Mm,
of funk, right?
yeah. Oh man, it's insane, man. You know, and like this past week, I was talking to a dude who we make completely different videos. Like he's more of like his stuff I think is geared a little bit more towards like a sillier than mine. And mine's like ridiculous, but his is more like real over the top ridiculous stuff,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But then I found out he played at San Diego State for basketball. And then we were started
Oh,
talking about that. And then he's like, bro, if you come down to San Diego or LA, I'm gonna take you to this place called Hoops Gym. You ever see those Instagram videos? Flights always playing there and stuff.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
like,
there's all kinds of Instagram
yeah,
videos
I
and
think like
whatever.
lately there's this one gym that's popping off like crazy. So if I
Okay.
go down there, I'm gonna visit it up, man. And what I want to do is one goal. I was like, man, like, wouldn't it be crazy, like, if I could learn how to like dunk like Jordan Kilgannon, right?
Oh
And
my God,
he said to me, Jordan Kilgannon comes to this gym all the time.
man,
I was
shut
thinking,
up.
what the hell?
He
So
he's from
hopefully I can get that going.
he's from Ontario, isn't he?
Yeah,
Jordan?
it's crazy. It's like
Yeah,
I doubt he's been there anytime like in the past
that's
month
right.
or two, but it just blows my mind, like the little tiny connections that people have
Well,
and
that's what
like
I'm
the lessons.
saying. That's what I'm saying with the internet and just realizing where these all like. I remember when I
Mm.
first went on when TikTok was first blowing up. There was this young kid that you were like, oh, this guy is just another California, LA guy, and meanwhile he's from his name's Colt. It's Colty or something. Young guy,
Man,
blonde hair, makes crazy stuff, and he lives down the road.
I did not. You know what's crazy about him, bro? I didn't like know he was from Halifax or anything, man. I was texting him the other day. I haven't met him, but we were texting, and all my buddies have been hanging out with him the past week, like randomly. I've yet to meet him, but he is blown up, man.
Man,
Right?
like
Blown up.
he's one of those household. He he is like he's your typical TikTok influencer, like and he's killing it. But it just goes to
Yeah.
show, like it doesn't matter where you're from. My mind went from, oh, this guy's got to be LA, like Los Angeles. Meanwhile, he's from Halifax,
Yeah.
which is nuts. Is that something that's in your future of wanting to go to California, or like do you feel
Well,
even the
man,
need to have to do that?
there was like a couple people who asked me, like, but the thing about TikTok, man, like, there's 90% of the stuff on there is super cringe, like super
Oh,
cringe, man. And
hey,
that's just the
trust.
truth, man. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and like they know, like everyone I talk to is like, yeah, we know, but that's how we make money. So I'm like, okay, do your thing.
right.
But so a couple people asked me to like move in some houses in LA, and I'm like, I don't really feel like doing it. But then I was like, I had like one FaceTime call with like Dobrik once, right?
Yeah,
And he was saying, do it. He says, come down, let's hang out, do something. So when he said, let's hang out, I'm like, okay, I got to find a way to get down there. Like
that's
fast,
right,
man. You got
bro.
to nip it in the bud right away.
And I always say, even if it doesn't work out, the fact that in 20 years you can say this is what I did,
Yeah.
you're gonna gain so much just from making that uncomfortable decision to do that. Than if you didn't, you were like, damn, I had the opportunity. Like, who knows what could have happened. Like, I
Yeah.
truly believe like you should never leave something on the table. That's a big reason why I moved over to London, England after I finished at X. I just said, all right, I don't know anyone in London. I don't have a job. I've never been to Europe
That's
before,
crazy you did that, by the way. That's
but
like, that's,
I need to get out of this. I need to get out of the Nova
yeah.
Scotia bubble. I need to get out of St. X and whatever. And so I went over there 5.5 months. Unfortunately, I had to come back because of the virus. But
Mm.
regardless, the fact that I can now say like I did something like that, that's why I look at you and I'm like, man, no brainer, go to LA.
Yeah, I have to do it, man. It's weird. Like you're saying, man, like you got to get out of your comfort zone to do things,
Yeah.
man. You have to. And I am absolutely not comfortable. Bro, went to a high school with 40 people, like Sacred Heart, like in my graduating class. Like
Right.
maybe 25 people I see every day consistently. That's it, right?
Mm-hmm,
So when I
mm-hmm.
went off to Queens, and it was 40,000 people, I was like, I can't do this. Too many people. And then I went to a smaller school. So that's why I was worried. Like, okay, look, that's the same situation I'm in right now. Like, I'd be going from here to LA or whatever. I'm worried it's going to be the same feeling as when I went to Sacred Heart to Queens. You
That's
know?
right, but the main thing that you just said is that you chose to leave, and guess what? If you
Yeah.
go to LA, you'll have the option to leave. Like
Yeah.
nobody's handcuffing you,
That's the
you know,
thing. Yeah. True. True.
unless you're into that. Like I'm not judging. Like handcuffs are cool, but
Yeah.
okay. I want to touch on sports and you growing up. Like, what was your sports influences? Why do you like basketball? Was it your dad, your uncle, your I know your dad's a little sensitive topic. I've learned that, you
No,
know,
I'm
that's
just kidding. I'm
it.
just
That's your
kidding.
little
Just a
jokes
joke.
and shit.
Yeah.
But no, like why how has sports affected your life growing up?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Like sports, specifically basketball, has changed everything for me growing up, man. Like when I was 16 or like 15, I didn't really play any sports or work out at all. I started going to the SMU gym to work out, and like I'd play pickup games with just random dudes for ball, right? And those pickup games, like I was thinking about this the other day, are like the reason I'm even personable at all. Because I'd go into a gym shy as a 16-year-old, not know anyone, and then immediately be thrown in a situation where I'm with these massive dudes playing
Yeah, yeah,
ball,
yeah.
and you just kind of got to ignore everything and say, you know what, I'm here to play ball. That's what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? So learning how to interact with people I've never met before all started right there in the half court at SMU. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the case for so many people, man.
Oh my God, like just even team sports. I was having a conversation with my friend Will, top of the food chain, and
Yeah.
he was like, man, like that's the thing with sports is that you're on this team and it's not necessarily the wins that you remember or the games or how many points you scored, but it's literally all of like the amount of stories you have with teammates or interacting with that or bus rides or in the locker room and guys,
Yeah.
showering together and like just all those kind of stuff that goes behind. That's why I love doing what I'm doing with Undress the Jersey is diving into like
Yeah.
that specific story that you just shared of going to SMU and learning something about yourself or growing from it.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
also, man, it helps with criticism so much, man. Because like I would get roasted, like I would get
shit.
absolutely roasted playing, man. And like if I didn't have that, maybe I'd be like a super sensitive guy. But
Sure.
learning how to get roasted right there and
Yeah.
say, you know what, I'm gonna come back tomorrow even
Yeah.
better.
Oh, I love
That
it.
teaches you something. You know what I mean? That teaches you something.
Did you ever want to play for Grammar? Like was that ever an interest, or for
Well,
you basketball was just like I want to just shoot some hoops?
honestly, man, like I was, and I'm gonna be completely like no cap here, okay? Completely serious. I was terrible at basketball until I was like 18 in university, and then I went every single day. Like I first learned how to dunk, white guy dunks, like real Larry Bird dunks,
Hey,
but still,
okay.
I learned how to do that kind of
Okay.
stuff. And I was so crazy that year. Like just I wanted to make the uni team, but
Yeah.
then I'm like, okay, no, I gotta focus on school, I gotta
Right,
do this
right,
and
right, right.
that. And that is my one regret is not trying out for the Bishops basketball team because listen, man, they were good last year, but when I was
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
they were trash, man. They were trash.
Man,
So I
this
could
is
have
what I'm
made it,
saying. Don't
you
have
know?
that
Well, I don't know
same
why I
regret.
didn't do it.
Yeah, hey, see, and that just you just answered your own question of whether or not you should go to LA. Like
Yeah.
the fact that you're sitting there, you're like, damn, like even if I didn't make the team, I could just say like, I tried and
I
and
don't know
and,
why I
and all
didn't,
that kind
man.
of stuff. You know what I mean?
And just side note real quick. Okay, so your buddy Will, right?
Yeah,
When I was 16 and I first started going to the gym, he was always at SMU gym, right?
yeah.
And me and my buddies used to work out there, and he was just fucking putting up mad weights, like always beasting. He was there when we got there, there when we left. We would always say to each other, because I didn't know who he was at the time. I
Mm.
was like, bro, like every time someone's like, how big do you want to get? I was like, that big. It was him. And no word of a lie, man. Oh,
Hey,
no word of a lie.
he's gonna hear this. He's gonna hear this and be like, yeah, yeah. People have realized how the food
I'm
chain.
telling you, man. And then
Yeah.
fucking when we saw him years later, my buddy who I used to work out with sent me the video of him on the medicine balls or on
Yes.
the workout balls shooting. They're like, this is the guy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no way. We're
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
crazy, man. But for real, every time we go work out, he was there. And man, he was always there and we left too. And it made me feel like shit. Like he was working so much harder than me.
Man, his work ethic and like his discipline and his just desire to get better is just
Yeah.
unmatched. And I'm trying to help him kind of take that energy and apply it to like social media and growing this brand because now he runs his own personal fitness brand and all that kind of stuff. So even just
Yeah.
having this conversation with you can just kind of see the full circle that sports and the internet and business and branding and all that kind of stuff they relate. Everything you learn from sports or everything you learn from relationships or everything you learn about simple things that you do like driving a car or like getting in a fight with
Yeah.
someone, like you just take pieces and pieces and pieces. And that's why I think, you know pushing your getting so uncomfortable just puts you in new situations for you to learn something new, right?
Absolutely,
Like,
man. And also, I'm thinking like back to branding for a second. Like now that I'm like coming up a little bit more, and I'm like really starting to plan for the future and everything. Buddy, I've never been so stressed out because I always see these videos, people getting canceled, right? And I know
Yes, man.
there's
I
a
know. I know.
bunch, there's
I
a
know.
bunch of
Yep.
nudes out there when I
Yep.
was like a young man, and I'm thinking, okay, I got to track down the millions of people who have a picture of my penis on their phone and ask them to delete it. Like the millions. You know?
Millions, he said, millions.
And it sucks, man, because I don't even remember who, and I know I sent it to like some group chats with the boys. Like,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
who the hell has this? I don't
Oh,
know who has it. I just know it exists.
I've got all
You
kinds of
know?
stories with that. I'm not going to get into because let's keep this PG.
Yeah.
But I just remember there was one lady at my high school. She came in for a talk, and like she would travel around the U.S. giving these talks about
Yeah.
cyberspace and like cybersecurity and all that kind of stuff. And mainly, she was talking about be careful what you post because it'll never delete. It'll always
Mm.
be out there. Be careful, this and that. No one really thought
Yeah.
about it, especially back then. But one thing that she did say is that it doesn't matter who you're talking about, everyone has something. Everyone has this mound of garbage online in their online.
Oh yeah, man.
It's just a matter of keeping yours small and trying to limit the size of it. And so to hear you say that, because it's a real thing, as you get into more eyeballs and on more people's phone screens, people are gonna be like, yo, fuck this guy. I'm finding something about him. Like
Yeah.
there's just people
And
like that out there, right?
it really is the little stuff too, man. Like when Zion, I saw a snap that he sent to some girl, and
Yes.
it was like
Come
I got
over
a
or
big
something.
room. Oh, like now you got to be so careful with everything
Oh
because nobody even
shit.
screenshotted that. They just took
No,
a picture of her with the snap. I'm like,
I
this
know,
guy,
man.
poor
And
guy, man.
there was another thing just recently with Jamal Murray and him
Oh,
having sexual encounters
oh
with
my
a
God, that
female, and
poor
then
guy, man.
her name was just like her face was just all over Twitter. Like
Yeah,
it's
and you see, like
scary.
at first he tried, like, just real quick before we get back to it. At first he tried to deny it, and then people were like, "But that is your girlfriend, right?" And he's like, "Okay, yeah, it's me." It's like, buddy, we
It's
knew it was
crazy.
you, man.
But like as good as the internet is, like there's just it's just all about what you choose to share. So like
Yeah,
I can only imagine like with you, especially like showing where you live or showing your house or
yeah.
showing your friends or like
Man, just one day, like in a random video recorded, like maybe not even okay, like a millisecond
yeah, yeah,
was like
yeah.
my number was there, right? I got 20 texts from people who downloaded and found a way to find it, and I'm like,
Man,
how did you find this number?
man, hey,
So hard, man.
that comes with the
You
clout,
know,
baby. That comes with the
that's what
clout.
it is. But someone said this to me. It was like, I can't remember what it is. They're like, if you're gonna do something stupid, don't film it. That's like the main thing. If everybody's gonna do something stupid. Everyone's gonna do something ridiculous. That's
Don't film
embarrassing.
it.
Don't film it. You know what I mean?
I I always say, or I heard it from somewhere, but it stuck with me. It's like, if you don't want someone to find out about it, you probably shouldn't do it. Like that's
Yeah.
like if you're
Oh,
like, damn,
absolutely, man.
it would suck if someone found out. It would suck if someone found out about this. Then that's just
Then
ask
you
if you're gonna
shouldn't do
do
it, man.
something. If you're gonna do something, at least be okay if someone found out about it.
Yeah. Like, don't do
So,
anything like what the other part of the quote was like, don't do anything that hurts anyone, like, physically or emotionally. If you do something embarrassing, okay, whatever, it's on
sure.
the internet. But if you do
Yes.
anything that's like mean or anything remotely, that's the stuff that'll get you in hot water, man. So just veer away,
Knocking on
just
wood.
don't, you
Knocking
know
on wood, baby. Knocking on wood.
yeah, exactly, dog.
Max, anything else you want to touch on? Like, I guess I want to know, say there, because obviously there's talks of TikTok like getting cut off in the
Yeah.
US. It already happened in India, China, whatever. What, let's not even talk about TikTok. Let's not even talk about you online. What would you be doing like in September or whenever once things like what's next on your plate going forward?
Next on the plate, man, hopefully I can get some sort of a YouTube thing started, man. Hopefully I can get sort of, because now, obviously, fallback plan to be advertising. I'm still working on a portfolio to
Okay.
do that just in case.
Okay.
But hopefully in September I am on YouTube killing it, man. But I need to plan something, man. That's the
Hey,
problem this week, bro. I got to plan,
you need to get
you
to
know?
LA. You need to get to
That's what
LA
I
is what
gotta
you
do.
need
And
to do.
number two, man, like I gotta start doing some ads to get some money to go there, man. Like I don't know why
That's
I'm
right.
not doing ads.
Have you done any sort of monetization in terms of your
Well, I
audience?
mean, like I tried just to build it up. Like I had a rule, like right before 1 million is when I'll start to do ads.
Okay.
So I'm obviously not there yet, but now I'm starting to change it a little bit because I get these ad offers that are like for things like, apps that teach you how to play violin, right? And at first I'm like,
Yes.
listen, that's not me. What am I going to do with that? But I should be thinking about it from the perspective of, okay, they want to pay me to do this. I'll make it ridiculous. They're going to like it. Everybody wins. I don't know why I don't do that. So I'm going to start.
Sometimes you got to put yourself first, and the only
Yeah.
reason you're saying no to that is because you're worried about what other people are going to say. If it's right to
Mm,
you and you can make it your, like, put your spin on it, it's a
yeah.
no-brainer because it's still going to fall under the content that you make and that you believe in, and you're gonna help yourself out and,
It's like, bro, I have like
gain something
hundreds of
from
videos of me crying. I don't know why I'm afraid to post one ad. Like, I don't know why
it.
that would be a deal breaker, man. But,
Say it again. Where's that spoon? Where's that spoon at you hide in your
but
car?
oh my god, is
Stop!
the
You actually
spoon
have it?
here?
Stop!
I think,
This is
do I have
real.
the spoon? I think I might have the spoon, man. And that's the behind the scenes stuff. People don't see the hard work behind the scenes.
That's what I mean.
Can I
That's why you
cry
gotta.
and command? No, I can't. So I got the spoon to help. And I've
That's what I
seen
mean.
people. If I'm downtown filming a video, it's embarrassing as hell if someone walks up next to the car and I'm like mid deep throating the spoon going, oh no, I'm sorry, it's for a video. And that's like, that makes it even worse, man.
Yeah, I want to talk about that just because as I've kind of started a YouTube channel for this, I've been trying to, like, experiment a little bit with vlogging, but, like, how do you handle the thoughts of, like, being judged in public?
I think now it's more like if someone judges you for doing something that's really like harmless, then they got their own shit to deal with, man. If someone's judging you for doing something that doesn't hurt anybody, just out there to have a good time, make some people laugh, if they're judging you for that, they got some shit going on in their life that they need to deal with first. So I always feel sympathy for that.
Uh,
Never anger towards those people.
that first crossed my mind when I saw a video of you outside Dow campus, and
Yeah.
you're like, man, I made up a new TikTok dance or something. It's so stupid. But you were like hitting one of these ones, like,
Well, that was because like, a buddy of mine made this song, and I'm like, all right, I'll put it in the video.
yeah.
But then that day, like, it took me an hour before people left, and that's why towards the end you can start to see people in. I'm like, you know what?
We lost him. Hey, this is really enjoying this conversation. He's probably gonna hop back in here. There you are.
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
What
let
up?
me just move this. Hold up. Let me switch them now. There we go. Yeah.
There you
So
go.
you
Yeah.
in front of people, as long as you're doing it for whatever reation, if you can justify it to yourself, like this is gonna push me somewhere forward, go for it,
Hmm.
man. Just
And
go for
you need to have that same attitude with the ad. So
it. Yeah.
uh, yeah, Max, I don't have anything else. This is exactly the way I wanted this thing to go. I really appreciate
Right
you
on,
hopping
brother.
on here and showing some
Hey,
love.
thanks
If
for
there's
having me, man. Thank you for having me.
where I guess give us one piece of advice. I guess I'm going to use this selfishly. One piece of advice for someone like me who's trying to do a sports marketing brand on specifically TikTok. How do I grow that? And then for anyone else who just wants to make TikTok videos, but they're too afraid and they don't know how to dance, like, just give us a little bit of advice for the TikTok world.
It's people are gonna hate you regardless of what you do. So just do anything you want. Like simple as that. Just do whatever you want anyway.
Mm,
Because there's the same people. If you're making something that's incredible and if you're making something that's terrible, they're gonna hate you either way. They're always gonna give you a terrible opinion. So just do whatever the hell you want and make it happen, man. You know?
beautiful. All right,
Yeah.
Max. People can find you at Max Emerson Taylor.
Max Emerson Taylor on all platforms, brother.
Buddy, you're there. You're the guy. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on. If there's anything else you need from me, you know where to find me. And that's it. I just little back stuff. I need you to say my My name is Max Emerson Taylor, and you are watching Undress the Jersey. And then
Yeah.
we'll get another sound clip for the end of you saying you were watching Undress the Jersey. So just one at the beginning and end.
All right, you ready? So do you want? Okay, I'll do both. Okay. My name is Max Emerson Taylor, and you are watching Undress the Jersey. And then the full thing again for the end.
My man.
Okay. My name is Max Emerson Taylor, and you were watching Undress the Jersey.
Gang, gang, brother. Thank you so much.
My man, yo, I
We'll
appreciate
be
you
in
having me
touch.
on, dog.
All right,
Sounds
brother.
good, brother.
Take care.
Take it
Thank
easy,
you.
man.
All right.
Thank you.